There will be no pause on Project Marvel. The Spurs propose new arena downtown, but the war is not over.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. And TGIF, I bet y'all are having a bigger smile on your face right now, knowing there'd be no strategic pause on Project Marvel. Yeah, this is exactly what we're going to talk about today. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app. Just go to the subscription, hit that little button there and subscribe, and you'll be all set and ready to go. But yeah, that's what we're talking about today. Project Marvel, leading up to yesterday's City Hall meeting. There was on the table if the city should just take a step back, take a breather, look at everything. In other words, just halt the progress moving forward on Project Marvel, which would bring an entertainment district to downtown San Antonio, including a new Spurs downtown arena. Well, that resolution to pause it did not go through. The vote shot it down. City Council voted to move forward. We're going to be talking about that. What did we see from City Hall meeting? What did some of the residents have to say? Were some residents making a point about making a pause? What about the other side? What points were made up about, no, let's keep on pushing? We're going to be talking about that. What does Sean Elliott have to say? Yeah, he had some inspiring words about his love for the city of San Antonio. Then there was a moment between Spurs co-owner Peter J. Holt and the mayor. Got a little feisty there for a little while. And then we're going to wrap it up and ask the big question. So now what? Yeah, now what? Yeah, as I said earlier, the battle's over, but the war is just beginning. You'll see what I mean about that in just a few seconds. Let's go to bring in our guest. He is back, everybody, to close out the week here at Locked On Spurs. Matt Guzman with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. He's on X at Matt GZMAN. Matt, welcome back to Locked On Spurs. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while, but it's the offseason, so really ain't much to talk about lately.
Yeah, it's true. You know, you kind of find what you can, but I'm just glad to be on to talk Project Marvel. And Jeff, I heard that the council was pretty excited about the term sheet because it said you're going to graciously give $400 million.
That's right. I have it right here. It's in stack of penny rolls, so it's like all over my apartment right now. No, I wish I had that kind of money. I'll solve that right away. I mean, hey, Mayor, you want that independent contract? I mean, the study. I got you. Don't worry. Here's some money for that. Yeah, but it was an interesting meeting. Yesterday at City Hall, and it was kind of like everybody was gearing up for that, right? Like a lot of Spurs fans on social media were like, can't wait till Thursday. It's basically the future of the Spurs home, the future of San Antonio downtown. A lot was riding on yesterday's votes. Your thoughts? How did you react to the whole meeting just as a whole?
I mean, it was the first time, I'd have to be honest, first time I've really tuned into something like that, to kind of understand that process and how everything was working. I was just blown away by how many residents wanted to speak, over 100 of them, whether they spoke or gave their time to somebody else. There was a lot of people were very invested. And I think, there was a lot to take in from both sides of the argument, and it was cool to see everybody voice their opinions for or against, regardless of what it was. And I think everyone was clearly very passionate about this.
Yeah, exactly. Now y'all can see in the screen, this is what a rendering, this is what it hopefully it'll look like once all said and done. So you can see the arena downtown. You can see the revised Alamo Dome. You see a lot of stuff there. You would see, it's like a new hotel. You see the land bridge there. So that's exactly what was discussed, like the future specifically of that arena. You see. Yeah, so there you saw it. Those are the artist renderings of what it looked like, and you saw on your screen there exactly what the residents are debating about is that downtown arena for now. Now, let's be fair, Matt. There were a lot. It felt like there was a lot more residents speaking that were out against, not against Project Marvel, just more for pausing things, just stopping things, not ending the whole discussion, just putting the brakes on it. Why? Because a majority of the residents were saying, yeah, we need to look at the documents. Yeah, we got to look at the papers. There was one, even a UTSA professor emeritus showed up and said, like, yeah, he reviewed it. That there were some holes in the Spurs submitted term sheet. Now, we got to make this clear. That term sheet that the mayor keeps on badgering and saying it's not good enough, keep in mind that is a summary. That's what I've learned. It was a summary report. It was not the full and final report. Right. So keep that in mind. That will just kind of have a basis to work on. Right. Now, and then you saw some other residents, Matt, chiming in about like how the money should be used, for, education, housing, just public works. There were some residents too, Matt, that said like, hey, Spurs, we gave you one, we gave you two. Now you're asking for a third home. So there was that too. What did you take away from the residents that were kind of rallying against moving forward and putting things on pause?
I think it kind of added some perspective to, the city as a whole, right? Because what we watched today wasn't a Spurs City Hall. It was a San Antonio City Hall.
Exactly.
And I think it's kind of easy to start, falling for the idea that everybody in San Antonio is as invested in the Spurs as the people who watch this show, as you and I who have to, cover this team. And, there's a whole world of this population that doesn't even care, so if you're a resident and all you've seen lately are, maybe some reporters you follow or some figureheads, within the city hall saying that this is not a good idea, or, we're worried about what this could do, or they're not being transparent, and you don't even like the franchise, it kind of makes it difficult to get behind that. It scares you. And that's kind of what a lot of the people I think were concerned about today was, we don't know, we don't have all the information. We don't know what this is going to do to the city and its money. If you live in a neighborhood that needs improvements on the roads, if you live in the school system that, needs improvement, and you're hearing that, no, they're not going to fix this for me, they're going to build a new arena downtown, it makes sense why you'd be a little frustrated about that. And so I think that's what it was. From takeaway was just adding that perspective that not everyone is all gung-ho on the Spurs.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Mayor Jones, she continued her rally cry to put a pause. She was actually the first one to speak once it was time to, debate and vote. And she had a PowerPoint presentation, putting out why the pause is needed. She had numbers, she had this and she had that. And, she was talking about there's no rush. Why are we rushing this? And so she stuck to her talking points that she's been doing almost at every meeting that she interrupts and crashes. Hey, her own words too, Matt. She said it herself that she crashed a few of them. So she kind of stuck to that too. And there was a kind of almost like a tense moment early in the meeting where she invited Spurs Peter J. Holt to the microphone, and she had a simple question for him: was, are you okay? Are you, the Spurs, okay with taking a pause and doing community outreach and getting another independent study? Now, Holt, he kept on pushing his talking points, such as, it'll help community development, jobs, how the Spurs are footing the bill, and then some and more, grand total 2.1 billion. He stuck to that. And then she kind of fired back at him. Okay, that's good, but are y'all okay with the pause and the independent analysis? He went back, and then the third time she's like, okay, I just need a yes or no answer. So it got a little heated. I don't want to say heated, just a little back and forth there. Ultimately, I felt, and you even heard there was a resident in the audience that was, I guess, saying no to Project Marvel. He screamed out, "Why don't you answer her question, you coward?" And it was referring to Peter J. Holt. So it got definitely testy at that moment. Again, overall, it just really felt like the community did come out to voice their opinion. There were a lot of reasons why, and it made sense why you should pause. And then there was a little like, no, we shouldn't pause and just move forward. And they all made sense. Matt, before we hit our break, it just really feels like this city is kind of divided on this topic, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to, what I was mentioning earlier, is that it's essentially the people who are big Spurs fans and into the team that want them to have this new arena, that want, this fancy sports and entertainment district to come with Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle. And you have this who probably couldn't tell you who the Spurs drafted last year, and I think that really kind of creates that divide where, they're wondering why, $1.3 billion is going toward an arena when it could go to something else. and I think there are, like we said, there are points on both sides, and
Mhm.
in favor of the Spurs. They like the information they have. They haven't, avoided doing the due diligence that they wanted to do. They got a study done by the same firm that did the Philadelphia study that the mayor kept referring to, and they liked what they saw. They're ready to move forward with those negotiations. And I think it's just going to come down to, who can campaign better from now until then to kind of get that public vote.
Yeah. Let's take a break here. When we get back, we're going to hear from Sean Elliott. He spoke about his love for the city and, again, Project Marvel, why I should move forward. So much more reaction from the City Hall meeting. We'll get to the big question later on the show. So what now? We'll talk about that and more right here on Locked On Spurs with Matt Guzman. He's on Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMAN. Hey, but first, I want to talk to you about Game Time NBA. Harry decided at the last minute to head to the ball game with friends and family. Maybe it's game day. Maybe you should realize that you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, even invite bigger groups to come with you. Get your buddies all together. Game Time will make it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets easy, fast, and simple. Prices on the app actually go down the closer you get to the first pitch, tip-off, and they include incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, lowest price guarantee, takes the worrying out of buying. Hey, did you know that Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB? It makes it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games, like your Astros or Rangers game. Tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best seat? Game Time's Zone Deal picks the best seats for you in your section. View the seat views, right there from the app. You'll exactly know where you'll be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA. There we go, for $20 off. Again, that's LOCKEDONNBA, $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Matt Guzman. He's with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. He's also on X at MattGZ. We're talking about Project Marvel. No pause. Yeah, there'll be no delay in Project Marvel. The first step to getting that entertainment district / Spurs Arena going began yesterday. Now, keep in mind, everybody, we got to keep this in mind, is not just simply about the Spurs Arena. It's an entire entertainment district, okay? That means shopping, food, Spurs Arena, new music venues, just a revitalization of downtown. So keep that in mind. And also, too, I want to make this very clear. The Spurs are committing to over $2 billion. They upped the ante since their first offer. Now it's 1.5 to now 2.1. That is a contribution for the entire district. Okay. Now, of that piece, $500 million will go to help creation of the new downtown arena if everything goes well. More of that later. So there you have it. Just to keep that in mind. And a few other points that we got to make very, very clear. Okay. And I think sometimes, Matt, some of the residents don't understand this. The $2.1 billion from the Spurs is a commitment at no cost to local taxpayers. All right? Keep that in mind. Okay? Also, too, that CSL report that Mayor Jones keeps badgering, like, oh, this report is not good. 20 pages. What is this? All that stuff. Well, keep this in mind that the city staff contracted CSL for that study. Okay? The Spurs did not have any involvement in that process. They did not even recommend CSL to the city. So keep that in mind as well as moving forward. Now, one thing that Mayor Jones keeps hammering too, Matt, is that, we're going to have community outreach. The community needs to be educated. Hey, council members, go to your constituents and have 2 face-to-face public meetings and debate about all this. Okay, fine. That makes sense. I understand where she's coming from. She's just trying to keep everybody informed. But did you know, Max, and everybody watching, that public engagement has already been taking place? It's already begun. And they've had multiple community meetings. They had multiple outreaches. Need an example? Go back in the archives of Locked On Spurs a few days ago. The Spurs political advisor, or consultant, I should say, Solano, he came on and he already did some community outreach. How? By answering fan questions submitted via social media. He answered 3 of them. So this process has been started already. And overall, Matt, if you really look at it, okay, fine, maybe the mayor, she means well, like, hey, this is a large chunk of change we got to pay, towards this. But the pause wasn't really necessary. You can do both at the same time. Okay. The city already receives the full and comprehensive economic impact study. Their cities had that, even before Jones was there. Right. And the study even covers exactly what is being asked for and delivered by the same company, CSL, that did the Philadelphia study. So it feels like a lot of the information was already there on the table for city council and the mayor before she was there. And now that she took over, they've had the information for a while now, Matt.
Absolutely. And I think, when you really think about it, like we're saying, it kind of makes sense that the mayor, wants to have a say or have a hand, in this analysis if this bill is going to pass or fail under, her time in office. And, they've had this information, but I guess, she doesn't feel that report was accurate enough, to help benefit everybody, not just the Spurs. Maybe she didn't feel like it was done thoroughly enough. Maybe she didn't like what it, maybe she just didn't like what it said and wanted to get a second opinion. It makes sense what she was hoping to gain and what she wanted to do, throughout this time. But I think, the fact of the matter is, right, item 4, which was to,
pause it. Yeah,
affirmatively start a pause, didn't even have a council discussion. It just failed. And I think, like you said, there is a way to do both, so there is a way to move forward and then continue to inform the voters, because halfway through the meeting, it became more about whether or not the voters were going to have all the information that they could when they put it to the ballot.
Yeah, exactly. And after the meeting concluded and everybody was done, Mayor Jones did speak with media, and she did seem like she still wants that independent contract. I was saying that independent economic analysis. There we go. And to move forward still. So she's seemingly still going to push for that. So she did have those remarks afterwards. And by the way, she gave no one way or another whether she's going to be pro push forward still or still kind of fight back on this. So she kind of had her stance there. A couple of other things too before we hear from Sean Elliott. I think overall, for me, the community of San Antonio, they deserve progress. And I think a pause would have delayed everything. And you remember how the Spurs committed to paying all the overrun costs? Like, hey, Bexar County, San Antonio, y'all going to be capped out of your donation, but we're going to take care of everything that goes beyond the Spurs. That is, hey, if it delays, if we need more money for this, we need more money for that. Oh, we got to redo this. They're going to take care of all that. And I think the pause would have just made a bigger burden for the Spurs because the prices go up, materials go up, labor goes up every day, every minute, every hour, every month. So I think that would have put more burden on the Spurs. And maybe they're going to be like, whoa, hang on, this is getting too expensive for us, But, and then that's the thing, too, is that I look, as much as Spurs fans, maybe, most Spurs fans don't really take a shine to Mayor Jones. She did fight the good fight in her mind. In her mind, she, really, and for her, she believed this was the best route for San Antonio. Was for the pause. That maybe she went about it wrong. Maybe she was just being too aggressive. Maybe she was just rubbing Spurs fans and some residents the wrong way. But ultimately, this was good for the city. This is going to be good for the city. This is going to, and we'll play Sean Elliott in a bit, but Sean Elliott said it himself. It's not just about the arena. He said it's beyond that. He said it's about community area. You look at New York City. I lived in New York City for 20 years. I remember going to Central Park, more times than I can count. I know that place like the back of my hand, and I would see, New Yorkers come together there. Did you know this, everybody? Within Central Park, there's another massive park. It's called the Great Lawn. And I would go there and you would see like people throwing the Frisbees and dogs and picnics, something like that. He looked at, just that as an example, coming together. And that's what they're trying to create for San Antonio. So again, Sean Elliott really hammered that home. Like this is beyond that. And he also said too, the goal of Project Marble, all of it, the entertainment district, yes, and the arena, he feels that he wants that to pass. And more of that later, because it'll make San Antonio the number one city in Texas. Not Houston, not Dallas, not Austin, San Antonio. So with that, Let's hear what Sean Elliott had to say. We'll play a snippet of it. It's a little long, but you'll get the gist of it. Hang on.
Thank you. The cleaning lady was cleaning the bathroom, so it took me a little time. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. I'm Sean Elliott, obviously. I've been a proud member of the San Antonio community and a Spurs employee for over 35 years. I was drafted here in 1989 by the San Antonio Spurs, and I was a young man who knew nothing about the city. And I quickly learned when I got here how much the people of San Antonio meant to the San Antonio Spurs and how much the Spurs meant to the people. I was constantly sent out by the Spurs to countless schools across this city to encourage kids to excel in the classroom, to respect your teachers, to stay away from drugs and gangs, and to stay in school. The Spurs have always been an instrument for bigger things, to build up San Antonio. And that spirit continues today, whether it's visiting wounded warriors, fixing playgrounds, speaking to students in school, leading charitable functions and events for the less fortunate, especially during the holiday season. Spurs players past and present have never been more active in the community than they are today. I have friends and colleagues across the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball, and I can say without hesitation that no other professional sports franchise engages the community like the San Antonio Spurs do. The impact is immeasurable. And there's a reason that so many of us stay here. David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, George the Iceman Gervin. They're all legends. They could live anywhere they want, but they laid down roots right here in San Antonio. And I did too, because there's a special bond here between the team, the city, and its people. It's special. But it's not just about basketball. Over the last 3 decades, I've watched San Antonio grow into one of the most dynamic, diverse, and welcoming cities in the entire nation. From our military presence, to our thriving small businesses, to our incredibly rich cultural traditions like Fiesta that make us so unique. We are a city on the rise. We saw that earlier with our culinary chefs. This gives us a chance to really soar. And that's why Project Marble matters. It's more than just a new arena. It's an investment in our city's future. It will help San Antonio step out of the shadows of other Texas cities and assume its rightful place as the #1 city in Texas. It's obvious that I love this city. I'm sorry for taking so much of your time, boss. But I built my life here. I want to see it continue to grow and thrive for many generations to come. Project Marvel can make that happen. So thank you for all of your time, and thank you for believing in San Antonio.
And there you have it. That was Sean Elliott giving an impassioned speech about his love for San Antonio, wanted it to be the best in Texas and so much more. But yeah, that was such a great speech, wasn't it, Matt?
Absolutely. And it's always awesome to hear from players who have played in the past, who know what it means to be part of the Spurs. And like he said, we'll live in San Antonio. I think that means a ton.
Absolutely. You know, one more thing before we hit the break real fast here is after the meeting was over, Peter J. O spoke with media that was on hand, asked some questions and whatnot. Very happy. We'll show his statement in a few minutes. But one thing that really, really, really needs to be highlighted was after he was done with media, he was walking away. He was exiting. And there was one resident that took the mic during the meeting, and she was pretty adamant against it. And she cried out his name like, Peter, Mr. Holt. And they went up, and he stopped in his tracks, had a conversation with her. You can hear a little bit like she was just confused about everything. And he took time to stand with her in the hallway and explain things to her. So that was good on Peter. Because if it's the same woman that I think it was that was rallying against it, for him to, and she was rallying against it pretty hard, then for him to go to somebody who was on the opposite end to kind of help clear things up for her, I think that was really awesome there. He is Matt Guzman of Spurs on Sports Illustrated. He is on next at Matt GZMan, where we get back, continue more about Project Marvel. Now what? What was the Spurs statement after it was all said and done? All that and more right here on Locked On Spurs. Okay, but first, I want to talk about Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's all in one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is there for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data, visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. How about that? Hey, look, maybe you can identify why aren't you saving as much as you can, and Monarch will help you. What if you started noticing insufficient investment allocation and discover that you forgot about a 401k from past jobs? Monarch will help you with that. Maximize investments, keep you clear view of our financial health. Monarch just does it all. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. Use code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Matt Guzman with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. He's on X at Matt GZN. He is here to talk about Project Marvel, as am I. Now what? The vote to pause did not pass, but the vote to move on with Project Marvel did pass. So that's what the team is doing now, and the city as well, and the residents. More of that in a bit. We got to make this clear too. I know a lot of Spurs fans are excited right now, Matt, rightfully so. It was getting a little dicey there, but just because the final vote came out 7-4 in favor of moving or against her, voting to move on, it should be noted that this is just the first step. Does not mean that everything's good to go. This is just open a door to the room where all the seats are and the tables are to start talking about the terms, start talking about the analysis, start talking about the economic impact. I think Spurs fans got to put a pause on if they're thinking that it's over, because it's not over, isn't it?
Absolutely not. No, like you said, today was a great step in the direction of making this a reality. This big district that the Spurs and the city of San Antonio and Bexar County, they're in their MOU. Everybody wants to work together to make this happen, and this was a good step in that direction. But now you have to get your voters informed. They have to understand exactly what they are going to be voting for or against.
Mm-hmm.
They have to know where that money is coming from, what it could be used for instead. I'm sure that there's going to be, parties on both sides advocating for their arguments and why you should vote for or against it. We have to figure out if there is going to be able to be another ballot for the bond, the revenue bond that the city is going to get. And then after that, you have to figure out the actual terms and sign the binding contracts once those votes pass or fail. And so I think that there's a lot more to do, but like you said, now that this door has been unlocked, all these conversations can be had, and it can begin to take shape over time.
Yeah. No, in essence, everybody, this is just inbounding the ball from the opposite end of the court. That's basically what happened yesterday at City Hall. That's all that happened. Now they got to walk up the court, set up the play, find the best shot. What are they doing on defense for those that are against? What are the ones that are for? What do they got to do to help make this? So basically, that's where we're at right now. Now, before we get on to ask the big question, now what? Peter J. Holt, after the vote to move forward passed, put out a statement. I'll put it here for everybody to see here. Right on the screen there. There you go. Sorry, Mask, cover your face there. But as you can see, he just said today's vote is an important step forward for San Antonio. Peter J. Holt says, I want to thank member, good Matt trying to speak around there. Thank the members of City Council, the city staff, and county for their leadership, due diligence, collaboration in helping us reach this point. Y'all can see it there. I'll leave it up for 2 more seconds because Matt's feeling lonely now, hiding behind that screen there. But he ends it by saying now the next step belongs to the people of Bexar County. On November 4th, voters will have the opportunity to decide on this project, and we are hopeful they'll join us saying yes to the future of city San Antonio. So there's Matt. So yeah, that brings us to what now? Now the Spurs are going to start soon. I don't know when, but it's going to be very soon. Community outreach, community education, public education, going to the districts, basically getting out why they feel that voters should vote yes to Project Marvel and the money to go to that. So that is coming up very soon. Now, I've gotten a lot of DMs, Matt, from fans asking, like, well, how can I help? How can I help? What do I got to do? There are 4 Project Marvel in the November vote. Right now, register to vote, get the word out, bring friends, family to register to vote, bring them to the ballot box on November 4th. That's the best that you could do for now. What the Spurs are going to do as far as their public education, public outreach, still to TBA. All right. So they'll likely roll out very soon because they got to start getting on the ball now. November 4th is going to sneak up pretty fast. Look, we're in August right now. So it'll go by like that, Matt. Matt, before I let you go, I know you've been on for a while here. Overall, though, what do you think about this? How do you feel about that? Where does Matt Guzman stand on this whole Project Marvel debate?
I think you nailed it earlier. You said overall, this is a very positive thing for the city, and I think when you look at the terms of the unofficial terms from this offer sheet, the Spurs are paying the most of the 3 parties for this new arena. They've committed beyond just the arena to help refurbish the area, to help with childhood education. I loved a stat that I saw from somebody, the $60 million that the Spurs are donating toward early childhood education is more than the Thunder pitched in for their new arena, and very different situations, very different leverages, but the Spurs have never been averse to helping the community, to pitching in. Just this summer, we've seen Blake Wesley send off a 3rd grader to New York for a MAC championship. Harrison Barnes and Build in Newport and Austin. Keldon Johnson was hosting basketball camps. The Spurs were everywhere, and they always have been.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that they're not going to stop pitching into this community. And when you look at what is to come with this arena, a lot more revenue and visitors and tourism, like it really has the opportunity to generate more money for the city overall. And I see it being a net positive.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I lived in New York City for 20 years, and let me tell you, when I went to Brooklyn Nets games, that entertainment district, I mean, you were there for the draft match. You saw it yourself. It's gorgeous. You got a shopping mall across the street. I even recommended a pizza place for you. I said, when you're done, just go down the street. There's a good pizza place, and even a cookie spot, that you go check that out. That was close to public transportation. I literally, like, the main entrance was like right there. The subways were there, and hopefully something will like that happen for City Center, maybe buses, public transportation. There were just bars. There were Best Buys. It was just an entire district, and it was anchored by, the Barclays Center for the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I get it. New York City, San Antonio, big difference there, but at least that's the vision for San Antonio, and hopefully it'll come to life. Another thing too about the whole pause thing, just real fast, again, I'm not going to disparage the mayor. Maybe she's trying to come from a good spot, just kind of looking out for everybody. But overall, I think the San Antonio community, they deserve progress, and I think the pause would have just maybe duplicated things. We gotta get another study. We gotta. We're going to do some more community outreach, but again, it's already been happening. It's been happening. It's been, public has been educated, or they're getting educated about what's going on. So why just double work? Let's just push forward. And look, if for some freaking reason, you got to have an independent study, then so be it. But at least we know we're moving forward. All right. But
I think the last thing,
even if that. Oh, go ahead.
The last thing I was thinking about too is, it's not the same area at all, but when you look at what they've done in such little time to that campus over at La Cantera, the Rock, they've put up, hoops. They have a giant TV screen for people to go and watch games. They have a fan shop there. It's anchored by that practice facility, and they host events all the time. There's a restaurant there now too. And I think, that's kind of what they're envisioning for this downtown arena, because, every event that they host there, it fills up, and you've been there a couple times too, just watching people. And, Chris Paul played beanbags with, fans whenever he showed up, and he had his own watch party. And I think, there's already semblances of what that looks like for all these Spurs fans to band together. And if you throw arena in there too, it all of a sudden it becomes this big cohesive thing. And I think that they're very capable of finding that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point there. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, the Rocket La Cantera is like a mini idea of what could happen. I mean, I go there too, because, by the way, already at that Rock La Cantera area, there's like hiking trails. Like, I'm being serious. There's like legit hiking trails, that you can take, and they even break it down. Like, this way is the longest one. It's like 5 miles. You go this way, and all along that trail, it takes you into shopping districts if you follow the right trail. So you kind of get like a little microscope, if you will, a little idea of what it could happen for that. Now, imagine that, but in downtown San Antonio, because the Rock is a little far out of the way for residents, but having something centralized, localized in downtown San Antonio, I mean, that'd be awesome. But again, you're going to have to get the vote out, everybody. We'll let you know when the Spurs do the community outreach / public education. We'll see what they have up their sleeve. And so whether you're for or against it, you definitely have time to think about everything. Go to the polls, whether you're going to vote no or vote yes, still just go out and vote. But if you are going to vote for Project Marvel moving forward, getting it all set and paid and moving on, then, gather your friends, go register to vote early, all that good stuff. So, yeah, so I think overall you got some clarifications of exactly what's going on. Hopefully I helped you undo your confusion, everybody, when it comes to the CSL report. The city, used. The Spurs had nothing to do with that. The Spurs commitment of $2.1 billion, goes to the entire district, the whole thing, so much more. So, but hey, we got to hear from you. What do you think about Project Marvel, at least for now, moving forward? You can let Matt know on X at MattGZMAN. And Matt, I'm assuming you can feel all about Project Marvel because it's still a hot topic in San Antonio, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. It kind of saves the content drought a little bit here. So I have some.
It really does. Yeah. When you're writing about NBA 2K26 for a major San Antonio outlet like Ken's 5, that's when somebody's scrambling for something to talk about when it comes to San Antonio Spurs.
The 99 overall shot block, that's news.
He does. I think that's like a record or something for the game. Something like that. Yeah. By the way, you saw that, right? Flag is the rated the best rookie in the NBA 2K26 over Harper already. I'm like, can't even let the guys play first, then let's give out some ratings.
Not to name names, but I was a little more appalled at some of the names of players that were ranked higher than De'Aaron Fox. I think the narrative is just completely changed.
And look what Matt just gave me an idea. We're going to have NBA 2K26 chat. I got to think of something on Locked On Spurs because the offseason is still not over. We still got a long way to go before training camp. So be looking forward to that on Locked On Spurs soon. And also, too, man, I gotta be honest, I could get a break from Project Marvel for a while. Just give me a few days. I feel like I'm an expert in civil government now. That's what it feels like local city government. I know, right? Again, he is Matt Guzman on X at MattGZMAN. He's also the head honcho over there at Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Make sure to go check out what he has for y'all coming up soon, today, tomorrow, next week. He'll have something for you when it comes to silver, black, and more. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. For any available where we get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kinspy, plus at YouTube. We'll be back next week as the offseason continues. I promise we'll try to get off Project Marvel. I really wish for a nice, quiet offseason, but here we are. But we'll try our best to stay away from Project Marvel, at least for a couple of days or a couple of shows, I should say. And then if we have to get back to it, well, Matt, they say Locked On Network brings you the local vibe, the local happenings. You can't get more local than Project Marvel. That's exactly what San Antonio is talking about right now. But for that, we're going to leave it on that. So for Matt Guzman, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock of this episode up, Locked On Spurs.